Building a website. Whether you want to be an affiliate marketer, whether you want to promote your Main Street store online, or whether you want to promote yourself and become a professional singer, you will at some point need to build a website. And at this junction, you have a few options. The worst option is that you pay someone thousands of dollars to make it for you. That's the right idea in terms of investing time and making the effort. But it's the wrong idea because it means that you're spending thousands when actually this is something you can do for yourself very easily and completely for free. If you want a website, then you can have one built in a day that is just as professional as the top sites in the world. Here's how it works. Building a website in a day. Number 1. Find hosting. Your first step is to find hosting. Web hosting means that you are finding space on a server. A server, meanwhile, is a large and very fast computer that stays constantly connected to the web, and that lives in a big server room somewhere where it is looked after by a whole lot of people. This server has space on it like any other computer, and you are effectively buying some of that space so that your files can be uploaded and take advantage of that constant connection to the web. Simple. There are lots of different providers and packages, but I recommend checking out something like Bluehost. Here, you should be able to find hosting, including a domain name, the address that someone types in to find your files, for around $10 per month, or even a little less. Choose the most basic package for now. You can always scale up if need be. And choose a URL that will be memorable and that ties in with your brand. Avoid that practice of making your URL your keyword. This is something that Google itself has said it doesn't like to see, and it certainly doesn't inspire much confidence in users. Number 2. Install WordPress. The next thing you're going to do is to install WordPress. WordPress is a CMS, which stands for Content Management System. This is a tool that you can use to upload new posts to your website, to edit existing posts, and to change the design, layout, and more. This means that you don't need to do any coding at all. But the best part is that it is completely free. Actually, that's not the best part. The best part is that it is highly professional. Far from being a website builder, this is the tool that is used to build a quarter of the websites on the net. And that includes some of the biggest brands out there like BBC America, Forbes, Huffington Post, Mashable, you name it. There is simply no need to pay for a limiting service like Wix. What's more, is that WordPress will allow you to benefit from the huge community of developers, meaning you can download additional features and design elements for free to completely change the look, layout, and functionality with just a click. And as though all this wasn't enough, you can even install WordPress itself with a single click using the majority of hosting providers. There's simply no reason not to use WordPress. Most of the tools you'll encounter and want to use, from e-commerce tools to SEO optimization to widgets, will be designed for WordPress. And not only that, but seeing as WordPress powers some of the biggest sites on the internet, you know that it is least possible to achieve this success with WordPress. You know that it is SEO friendly, for instance. And that means that you can just concentrate on creating fantastic content and not worry about the rest. Number 3, add a new theme. The next thing you should do, in fact, is to head over to a site called ThemeForest, or one like it. Here, you can browse a large selection of professional and modern-looking themes and then download them to install. WordPress actually has a built-in theme store, and you can check there for a wide range of different free themes. Problem is, you tend to run into these free options a fair bit while browsing the web, and they understandably aren't quite as slick as many of the paid ones. That's why my advice is generally to pay and get something slightly more professional and slightly more polished. Once you find the one you like, it's simply a matter of downloading it and then uploading the zip file to WordPress. Number 4, customization. It's similarly easy to add plugins, which are small apps that run on your website either behind the scenes or front and center. These can include things like social media buttons to integrate your SMO, or they can include security features. Install a few of these and then find the customization tools in the WP login in order to set up how you want the site to look, the name, the copyright notice, and the rest. That's really all you need to do to make an amazing website, and then it's a matter of adding a stellar logo. Creating logos and more graphic design. Using your new web design skills, you can now build a site for yourself or for clients. But the other part of web design is the design bit. And in fact, this is another highly in-demand skill that it really pays to learn. You can learn web design, then you can create graphics that will help you sell products, and you can provide another incredible service. Go onto sites like Fiverr, Upwork, People Per Hour, etc., and you can expect to make a lot of money selling these skills. You'll never struggle for work if you can do this, and offer web design and writing services. And working on your own logo is a great place to flex your muscle and learn the ropes. Good logo design. The key to good logo design will be to know your brand and what you want to communicate. The core part of any brand should be the mission statement. This is a statement of intent about what your brand aims to offer and achieve, and how it hopes to do it. It's not just about what you sell, but rather, it's about that extra attention to detail and what sets you apart. A fitness site is one thing, but is this a fitness site about healthy living and good times? Or is this a fitness site about pumping iron and pushing harder? Is it a fitness site that's about bodyweight fitness and cool stunts? Apple isn't just a brand that makes computers. It's a brand that challenges norms and creates stunning products for artistic individuals that want to express themselves. And that's what makes people excited about Apple. Watch Simon Sinek's TED Talk on the Golden Circle. Consider this required watching for all businesses, in fact. You want to be more than just a company. You want to be a movement, something people can get behind, because this will make them want to read your content, follow you on social media, and buy your products all the more. And the job of your logo is to communicate this perfectly. You can do this by thinking up related imagery. Why not create a mood board, a selection of different images that inspire you or that are related to the message you want to put across? Then try combining those images in different and unique ways to see if you can come up with something unique that way. Avoid cliché and try to be objective by surveying people to see if the brand expresses your business correctly. Then go to work making the logo. The tools. The tool you're going to use to create your logo is Adobe Illustrator. This is not negotiable. The reason you need Adobe Illustrator is because this is the industry standard for designers. Adobe Illustrator allows you to create vector files. And what these are files that work based on instructions about geometry, angles, and distances. Vector files tell the computer where to draw lines, what angles those lines should point in, and how long they should be. This means that you can zoom in and all the ratios and angles remain the same. There will be no loss of quality. It also means that the image can be edited at any time by dragging the individual lines, cutting bits off, etc. The opposite is a raster file, a JPEG or PNG. If someone hires you to make them a logo and you make it in Photoshop and give them a JPEG or PNG file, then they will likely laugh in your face. Using Illustrator is not terribly easy, but if you follow some YouTube tutorials, you should be able to grasp the basics. The key is to understand that those lines are what are making up all your images. These can be drawn individually and are called paths. You can then add nodes onto those lines called anchor points and drag those around to lengthen or alter the angle. By drawing multiple paths and having them intersect, you can then select them at the same time and choose to join those lines. Now they become the outline of a shape, and you can fill it or drag it around as a single element. More useful is the Shape tool. This lets you draw squares, polygons, ellipses, and more from scratch. This becomes even more powerful if you use it in conjunction with the free Draw tool and with a Pathfinder window. The Pathfinder allows you to do things like combine two separate shapes into a single one, to cut off, divide sections of a shape, and more. You can also transform your shapes using the Transform option from the top menu, as you might in any other Draw tool. Combine these features together with a little extra watching, and you can start to create some rather complex shapes. What's handy is that any wonky lines will get smoothed out for you, and you'll see guidelines as you drag things to help you find center points or to line up elements that are opposite each other on the screen. Create something unique this way, and then choose a great font from a site like FontSquirrel, and you have your logo. It will look much more professional than anything you would make with any other tool. Tip: note that one of the best ways to ensure your logo design is good is to follow the KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid. Simple design is generally better than busy design, in fact. And when coming up with elements for your website, try to keep in mind one more mantra. Communicate, don't decorate. This means that you shouldn't add flowery flourishes just for the sake of it. Any additional dialogue or graphical element should be there for a purpose, whether that is to lead the eye through the UX or whether it is to point to something else important. Photography, an underrated web skill. Our aim here is to turn you into the web equivalent of a triple threat. In Hollywood, a triple threat is someone who can dance, sing, and act. Already, you know the basics of marketing. You can write, you can design, and you can build websites. That little bit of extra knowledge puts you head and shoulders above all those webmasters and marketers that just spam the web with derivative content. The next thing to look into learning then is photography. Photography is another skill that can help to elevate a brand to the next level online, and this is in a lot of demand among publishers. That's because photography can be used to accompany a blog post to make it look more engaging and interesting. And it can also be used in order to promote a product and make it look like something that people will be eager to buy. Photography can really help to sell the dream, as we discussed, and this is particularly powerful when used on social accounts such as Instagram, where it can help you to make a massive impact by promoting a certain lifestyle and dream. Learn photography, and you've learned just one more skill that 99% of people who try to make a name for themselves online don't know. And that makes you even more employable and gives you even more of an edge over the competition. The laws of great photography. So what does it take to make incredible photographs? First of all, having a great camera can of course make a big difference. While you shouldn't make the mistake of believing that your success entirely comes down to having the right camera, this will indeed make a big difference. You don't need to spend a fortune. A good place to start is by getting a mirrorless camera that will give you manual controls regarding focus, aperture, etc. The Lumix G7 is a fantastic starting camera, and especially if you combine it with an extra lens such as the f1.7 25mm. This won't set you back more than a few $100s, but the results will be photos that look like they were taken by a professional photographer and video that has an almost movie-like quality. That said, if you were forced to make do with a camera phone, it's still possible to take great photos. Just spend some time thinking about each shot rather than simply pointing your camera directly at whatever is the subject matter and having it the center of the frame. Try to be more original and creative in your photos and ask yourself, what is a story you're trying to tell? What do you want to convey through your images? What emotion are you trying to evoke? How could this shot be made more interesting? A good starting point is to consider not just the foreground, but also the middle ground and the background. This can help you to create a sense of depth, and when done well, this should lead the eye deeper into the picture and create more of a sense of 3D. This is also better for portraying scale. Scale is something else that is important, by the way. Photos of mountains and views often look dull because they don't convey the height or the depth, and that means that they can't portray what it really feels like to be there. To solve this problem, look for additional elements that you can include, such as pebbles and rocks in the foreground, or of course a person. Likewise, you can use things in the foreground to frame something in a more interesting manner. Leaves around the edge of your photo can help to frame whatever is happening in the middle ground and provide that depth as well as the feeling that you are peeking out at the action that is going on. In these situations, think about the focus too. Do you want to open up the aperture and focus on the foreground? That way you can blur out the background and really make the subject the focus. Or do you want to focus on the background more and blur out the foreground, thereby making sure that the foreground, while decorative, isn't distracting? Or perhaps the foreground and the background are thematically linked. That might mean a pair of shoes thrown off on the floor while someone runs off into the sea in the background. This works well because it tells a story rather than simply showing a static and dull image. Upward angles tend to make something look bigger and thus more important. Downward angles can meanwhile have the opposite effect, as you would probably expect. Think as well about the way you set up the shot in terms of the lighting. You'd be surprised how few people even consider lighting, but this is a very important factor. Make sure that the light isn't behind the subject. Ideally, you want a soft light that will hit the subject side on, creating shadows and depth through what is known as Rembrandt lighting. Or how about using brighter light in order to create stark contrast? That might mean having shafts of light coming in through the blinds, for example, and creating a sense of time. Again, it's all about the story you want to tell, and your photo should inform that story. Finally, consider the background and your presentation. If you're taking a photo of yourself working on the computer to demonstrate the laptop lifestyle, then that can be a really great way to subtly promote a product that teaches people to work online. But this will only work effectively as long as the background isn't filled with piles of ironing and washing. Remember, every item tells a story. So think about the story you want to tell and set the scene accordingly. And spend some time reading. You need to learn about the exposure triangle and more in order to become a truly great photographer.